Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Tamira and I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm coming to you all to share some, tips on how I passed my LCSW. And not only did I pass it, I passed it on my first try, which honestly, the test is extremely hard. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Virginia. And Virginia and I believe California are the two hardest places to get your licensure. Whether it is a licensed master social worker, an LMSW, or a licensed clinical social worker, an LCSW. That test was extremely hard, but I'm going to get into that, after I talk about the tips, because if you clicked on this video, then you want to know, you're either preparing to take your license, or maybe you failed it and you're just trying to get some additional tips. So I am going to tell you what helps me, and I want to preface that by saying it helps me. Now, what I'm going to give you, the tips I'm going to give you may not help you. You know you the best. You are your own expert, right? So if there's certain things that I say to you that you're like, oh no, I can't do that, that's not going to work for me, then hey, throw it away, forget I even said it. But if there's anything that you feel like, okay, maybe I can do that, please feel free to, use these tips. And please like and subscribe if this is something that you're interested in. This channel is going to be about social work and pretty much everything social work. But anywho, let me get into these tips. I have to hide my handwriting, y'all, because my handwriting is so horrible. But anywho, so my first tip for how I passed my LCSW on the first try. Now, this tip may seem a little extreme for some, but for me, I started to pass for my licensure a year before I became eligible to take my test, right? So in the state of Virginia, you have to be under supervision for 2 years, and is it 4,000 hours? Y'all, I forgot. But you have to be under supervision for at least 2 years. And I know my 2 years was up, but I became eligible. I think it was in May when I became eligible. So as soon as I was able to take my test, I did not want to delay. I knew that when I registered for supervision, which was 2 years prior to testing, that 2 years later I would be eligible to take my test. So for me, it's like, well, Tamara, this is something that you've been preparing for. This test is not a surprise. 2 years after this date, once your paperwork goes through, you get approved, that you can take your test. So I did not want to be my own delay, right? I didn't want I did not want the delay to be on me. I didn't want the delay to be on me. This is something that I really, really wanted. As soon as I graduated and received my MSW, my Master's in Social Work, I knew I wanted to get my LCSW. And the reason why I knew I wanted to get my LCSW was for a lot of reasons, and I will explain that in another video, because I know some of you struggle with, should I just have my MSW? Should I get my LMSW? Or should I get my LCSW? So I will break that down in another video. So please make sure you are subscribed to my channel so you can, be notified when I have other videos coming out. But anywho, that was a strategy for me. So my first year, I met with my supervisor. At that time, I was a medical social worker, so I worked in the hospital. We would go over certain patients. I worked on the mother-baby ward, so I had to, do a lot of CPS and things like that. So my first year, I kind of want to say it was like a generalist year. I was kind of just, I got my first job after I graduated with my master's in social work. Meeting with my supervisor, trying to go over certain things, trying to get my feel, breaking down, of course, going over social work ethics, and things like that. Then the next year, and this was something that I did on my own, not really under the guidance of my supervisor. I knew that I wanted to start studying a year prior. So then that's when I really started to get into the diagnosing piece of the LCSW exam, which honestly I will say there was maybe only there wasn't that many questions when it came to diagnosing, but I will break that down later. But I started to get into the more clinical realm, like mental status exam and diagnosing, medication, certain things like that. So a year out, I was like, okay, I need to go ahead and start, preparing myself, get ready. So that's one tip. I started to study or started to prepare myself a year prior. 6 months prior to when I became eligible to take my test, I was like really like studying. I did, well, someone else that I knew had the ASWB social work like practice prep test book. So I bought it for them. I bought that book from them. So I went through that book. It was like a study guide. I went through that. There was a test at the back of it. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I bought a used one, then I bought a brand new one because the brand new one I wanted to take the practice test. So I took the practice test at the end of that, and everything the things that I got wrong on, the areas that I wasn't that strong on, I went back to review. Now I did that I think I did that 2 weeks prior to taking my test, 2 or 3 weeks prior to taking my test. But for me, I know, sorry y'all, my camera had died, and I do have some coffee right here. I'm going to take a swig of my coffee because I want all of my videos, I want it to be like, you know, friends talking, having a chit chat. I don't want it to be too serious. I don't want it to be too formal. I just want to have a conversation and just flow. Yes, anywho. So I did that a couple of weeks prior to my test. But that was one tip. That was one of my tips, is I started to study a year before. Let's see. Okay, that was tip 1. My second tip is do not use too many resources. So when I scheduled my exam, well, not when I scheduled my exam, maybe 3 months before I scheduled my exam, I started researching all these different resources. I started watching YouTube videos. I got books. I was gonna do, I think it was called, is it called TDT? All these different, I think it's called TDT, y'all correct me. it's a therapist development, TDC, I think, therapist development center, I think that's what it's called, y'all. But there was all these resources. I was watching so many YouTube videos, and I was listening to one person, then somebody else, and then there was all these acronyms, and some people were saying, you know, do this, some people were saying do that, and I found myself like, whoa, like this is too much. I was confusing myself. So I used pretty much 2 resources, and that was it, because I did not want to confuse myself any further, and I was kind of getting frustrated because I felt like certain people were contradicting certain things that I knew my own, you know, what I knew to be truth, and I was like, what, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I wouldn't choose that answer. So I stuck to 2 resources. My 2 resources were, there was this young lady, her YouTube channel. I'm gonna link that down below. I loved her videos, it made sense. And then I just had some notes in the ASW book. That was it. That was all I used. So I also took the ASWB practice exam. I believe it was $85. I took that exam. It was 4 hours long, which is how long the exam is here in Virginia. It might be 4.5, but whatever the length is of the real exam, that's how it was on the ASWB practice exam. So that helped me gauge where I was answering questions, things like that. So if you can do that, and if it's in your budget, you know, you can do that as well. That's something that I did, and I feel like it really helped me. The third tip, I will say, the week before I was getting nervous. It was a whole lot of stuff going on, and I was just like, had some personal things going on. I'm like, maybe I should push back this exam. I was gonna cancel it. And something inside of me said, no, Tamara, now or never. Take it now. You'll know how it is. If you fail it, you'll know how the test is. You'll know what areas you need to work on, but you are not going to reschedule that exam. And that's what I did, and I passed. So I really hope that these 3 tips help you all. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to comment and ask me whatever you need to know or any questions. If you have any questions or any videos that you would like to see coming forward, please let me know. Please leave those questions and those suggestions in the comment box down below. I have a lot of videos that I plan to come out and talk about because I feel like social workers, there needs to be more out there about social work, and I'm very passionate about social work. I love social work, so the knowledge and the things that I've learned and I've dealt with, I just want to share my knowledge with everyone, and certain things that I've experienced. I just want you all to know that if you are experiencing the same thing, you are not alone. And I am here to offer support. My website is going to be coming shortly, fingers crossed, where I'm going to be providing consultations, resume revisions, anything that you all may need. Even if you just want to reach out to me, do some one-on-one conversations, some career consultations, career development, I'm going to start doing that. But anywho, please like my video, please subscribe, and thank you guys. I will see you all later.